Hi there everybody, today we are going to look at circles. So we're going to look at parts of a circle to start with, and then we're going to look at circumference and area. Alright, I'm trying to group them all together simply because some of the kind of terminology that they're going to use for the next little bit need to be addressed in this first little bit. But I don't want to spend 3 different lessons doing all this, so I'm going to try and wrap it all in one because this first one will be relatively quick. Alright, so parts of a circle. So parts of a circle you need to know, you need to be aware of. First of all, the circumference. Circumference is essentially the perimeter, all right, the distance around the outside of a circle, all right, so we can label it there. So the line in black all the way around the outside is the circumference, okay. The diameter is a line from one side to the other which goes through the center, all right, so it's a line that goes right through the middle of the circle, right to the end. So that whole distance all the way across is classed as the diameter. The radius is a line from the side to the center, all right, so it's effectively half the diameter because it only goes basically from the middle to the outside as opposed to going all the way across. All right, so the radius is half of the diameter, and it goes like that. Okay, so a chord is a line that basically crosses the circle from one side to the other but does not go through the center. All right, so that's classed as a chord. All right, something like that. A tangent is a line that touches the circle on the outside. All right, so it literally just touches it. All right, so there you go. And an arc is essentially a chunk or a small portion of the circumference. So something like that. All right, and of course it could be any length or any part of the circumference, but it's classed as an arc. So not a full circumference, so an arc. All right. Key other bits of piece of information, and again, hopefully you're taking notes on these. You've got a sector, which is essentially 2 radiuses and chucked off, looks like a pizza slice essentially. So sector, and a segment, and then normally a segment is a bit that's cut from a chord essentially. A chord. So this bit over here would be a segment there, and this bit would be a sector. All right. Okay, so it's cut by 2 radiuses. All right, and obviously a segment is cut by a chord. All right. So they're your terminology. All right. Please revisit this at any point if you want to take further notes on it. And of course, the information is on maths-school.co if you want to walk through it a little bit slower. Right. So the circumference. All right. So I'm going to look at the circumference now, and I'm looking at the area of a circle separately after this one. Right. The circumference you need to use something called pi in a calculator. Right. Pi is basically a number. All right. It's a very, very long number, just bigger than 3, but it's relating to circles essentially. All right, so you don't need to know too much about it. I mean, there's loads of kind of information out there as to what pi is, how it's going to come about, but it's about the relationship between obviously the circumference and the radius and the diameter of a circle. All right, but anyway, so pi is a button on a calculator, approximately 3.14. I think it's 3.14159265358 ish. But of course you just put it on the calculator in some cases. Sometimes if it's a non-calculator paper, they might ask you to leave it in terms of pi. That means you wouldn't really use it, you just kind of tag it on as part of the calculation, but I'll talk to you about that in a second. Right, so in terms of what is circumference or circumference, how you work it out is pi times diameter, and that's it. Circumference is pi times diameter. So if you're given an example, which I've got on here, it would be pi times 11. All right, so pi times diameter. So there you go, pi times 11. Put that in the calculator and you get 34.56 if we round it to 2 decimal places. But if I said to you it's a non-calculator paper, now you won't be able to do this bit here. All right, you won't be able to do that bit because you wouldn't know what pi is exactly, and it would be quite complicated. So you would leave your answer a bit like this, and you would probably just say 11 pi. And for whatever reason, that seems to be accepted in non-calculator kind of questions. You leave it as just 11 pi because they know that pi is a number, but they also know it's quite an awful long, ridiculously long-winded one. So leaving it as 11 pi, it would be a non-calculator paper. Okay. So what happens if you're not given the diameter, and you're given only the radius? Well, I mentioned it a couple of minutes ago when I talked about parts of a circle. Well, the radius is half the diameter. So in order to get the diameter, I just need to double 7. All right, so circumference is pi times diameter, but the diameter is 2 lots of the radius. So you can see that kind of written as another little formula. So I'm going to put the numbers in. Is pi times 2 times 7, so double the 7, which is 14 times pi. So I could leave my answer as 14 pi in a non-calculator paper. But in here, we're going to put the numbers in, and we're going to round it to 1 decimal place by the looks of it. All right, it doesn't say that in the question, but it looks like that's what's happened. Okay, so, and again, because we are looking at a distance, centimetres and metres is the same unit, so it is the distance around the outside. All right. Right, so circles, area of circles. So we looked at the circumference, and that's the distance around the outside. So the area of a circle is obviously the area inside it. Same as before in terms of using pi because to do with a circle. Well, the area is given as pi times radius squared, all right, or pi times radius. There are a bunch of things out there in terms of helping you trying to remember circumference and area. I'm not going to start singing songs, but there's certainly one out there that might be kind of catchy for you. Right, so how to work out the area of a circle? So you've got pi times radius squared. Well, let's just shove these numbers in. So you can do pi times 3 squared. There you go, pi times 3 squared, which is pi times 9, which would be, again, in a non-calculator paper, you would say 9 pi. But we're going to put the numbers in and get it to 1 decimal place. And again, because we are thinking about area, think about our units, we are talking centimetres squared. So on the flip side of what we did with circumference, which is why I wanted to do them together, if you are given the diameter, then we want the radius. So we need to half the diameter to get the radius. So it's pi times radius squared, which is pi times 4 squared. So that's what you've got to watch out for. Make sure you've got the right one, which is 16 pi. And again, non-calculator, I could leave it like that. But in terms of today, we're going to do 50.3. And what's the error with this one? What have we noticed? Wrong, isn't it? Because this is meters. And what does this say? Centimetres squared. All right, so this should be meters squared. So easy mistake to make, isn't it? Really easy mistake to make. All right, so that should be meters squared. I'll try and get that changed. All right, but for now, should be 50.3 meters squared. All right, so please do go away and practice. Go to maths-school.co.uk. There's a link at the bottom of the page as normal. And of course, revisit this lesson whenever you like. Thanks for listening.